my phone just exploded with all my friends who went and watched it, and they were like, hashtag God's not dead. I'm like, okay, you saw the movie. Like, that's how I know you're all watching the movie.
Yeah.
And they were just doing that to everyone. People were just sharing that and sharing that hashtag to everyone. And so the movie, that's how it kind of snowballed and grew from its initial release. So, yeah.
We love the San Gabriel Valley. There are some amazing people and businesses here, and we think they deserve the spotlight. Welcome to the SGV Master Key Podcast. We'll have on the people that make the SGV great. We'll find out what makes them tick, their ups and downs, their history, and we're going to have fun doing it. This is the SGV Master Key Podcast. And now your hosts, Scott Warmoth and Russell Mano.
All right, SGVers, welcome back to another episode of the SGV Master Key Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If you are new here, we document and share the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley. And if you are a returning listener, thank you for tuning in. We are excited to bring you another guest here today, right here in the San Gabriel Valley. If you are a regular listener, you probably have seen him in a previous episode with San Gabriel Educational Foundation, but he's back here today to talk more about his own journey in the San Gabriel Valley. But before this show, we were talking about all this stuff in the studio, having a studio, the lights, the camera, the sound, and all this stuff didn't exist, so readily for the average person or anybody who wanted to do it, 20 years ago. You couldn't just create your own show.
No, yeah, you couldn't, and I wouldn't have thought of doing it myself either. Although over time it became, it was always a dream I had, to be honest, for, I don't know, maybe 10 years, 10, 15 years. When we started doing more and more commercials and then came up with ideas for a little more detailed and in-depth interviews and so on. I think having Brandon Rogers here when he worked for our firm was a big moment, because we did start to think beyond ourselves. Brandon went on to become a YouTube star. But yeah, I think I actually did imagine this type of thing.
So I've seen you give speeches in front of large crowds. I've seen you in front of the camera. I see you here. Did you always have this ability to feel comfortable, or did it develop over time? Did you have any training?
Oh, I never feel comfortable giving a speech in front of a large crowd. I would prefer never, ever to do it in my life, because it ruins my day. It ruins, like, the month before, or the minute I find out I have to do it. Like, my life is no fun until I do it. It could be. I remember one big speech I had to give, and it, I knew like 3 months in advance. And I just never, ever enjoyed life for 3 months until it was over. And
3 months.
Oh, yeah. What I did, I took speech lessons. I took training from a person who taught you how to do public speaking.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, but it didn't help.
No.
No, I mean, it was fine. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm learning the lesson. But, as soon as he left, it's like, I don't want to do this. Yeah. Now I'm comfortable here most of the time, because I don't even think about all the equipment. It's just second nature now.
Sure. Well, the reason that we're talking about this is because our guest today has a lot of experience, I would say, in this field. He owns his own business related to that, but he's much more than just a business owner. He's an actor, a writer, musician, and owner of Pop Rock Academy in Temple City. His name is Paul Kuo. Paul, welcome back to the show.
Well, thanks for having me here. Yeah. It's wonderful to be back.
Thank you.
So you were just here with Adela for the nonprofit, but we invited you back because you have your own business in the San Gabriel Valley. And what type of business is that?
So my business is Pop Rock Academy, and we are I provide acting, dance, and music and performing arts related class training to students. So we help students, young and old, to break into the industry, learn how to audition and how to find an agent, how to find management, how to navigate the entire Hollywood world, and book commercials, TV shows, voiceover jobs, modeling jobs, all kinds of things, so. And I've had students as young as 5-6 years old book things, all the way up to like 70 something years old, book jobs. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. I never met this type of person in this profession before. That's really interesting.
Are you a member of SAG?
Yes, I am a SAG-AFTRA member. So I've been in the union for a long time now. I think since, was it 2008, 9 around there? I think somewhere around there. That's when I got inducted.
Started acting at that time?
Yeah, around there.
Started acting professionally.
In the union. But I was acting a few years before that. It takes a little while. It's one of those catch-22 trying to join the union. It's like, how do you join that? Well, you can't join it without doing a SAG job, but you can't have a SAG job if you're not in the union. So it's like, how do you join? But there are ways, and we, I help students learn, and I teach them how to find those opportunities to get into the union. And when is the right time? It's not necessarily like joining the union isn't necessarily the right move for every actor right away, because if you're not competitive enough, you might want to build up your resume doing non-union work first for a little while until you're ready to compete in the union world, because you can't do both.
Wow. Okay. So let's go back to where this journey started. What was your childhood like growing up here in the San Gabriel Valley?
So my family, we moved here. It's a hilarious story because, I guess looking back, it's hilarious. But so we moved here in the 1989. My dad actually moved here 6 months before my mom and my brother and I moved here. And we came from Hong Kong, and I was like 8, 9 around that time, at that time. And so my dad came here for seminary school, and it was a weird thing because he went to a seminary expo school. I didn't even know there were seminary school expos in Hong Kong from schools all around the world. Would go to Hong Kong to recruit. I'm like, this is such a fascinating thing. And there was this one school that was a Mandarin-speaking school, but Hong Kong spoke mostly, Cantonese at that time. And so, but they were like, let's take a risk and go to Hong Kong and try to recruit. And then my dad was literally the only student who signed up. And the school never went back. So my dad was the only person who ever signed up from Hong Kong, for that school. So he came here, and then about 3 or 4 months into his, schooling, and my mom didn't have any interest in moving because she had a cushy job as a nurse in Hong Kong, makes good money. Like, why in the world would she want to move here? But my dad got into a car accident and then totaled his car, but he was perfectly fine. He just totaled his car, and then my mom freaked out, got scared, and then so we all came over here, and I've been living in San Gabriel ever since, so I never left the city. I did go to school, college at USC. I did my master's and my undergrad there. I lived on campus for a few years, but I was coming back here every weekend because I teach piano at home. I started piano lesson when I was 4 years old. Every Asian parent, that was like, you're doing piano and violin. And I was the typical Asian kid. I did piano and violin without any intention of becoming a pianist. But for whatever reason, when I started applying to college, I was like, I'm going to become a pianist. And my parents were like, okay. And the only reason my dad was okay with, and my parents are okay because, most Asian parents are like, in the 90s were like, you're not going to go and do music. There's no money in that. And one of my uncle actually yelled at my mom, like, why would you let him do this? Because he's like one of the top civil engineer in Hong Kong. So, I think he is the top civil engineer in Hong Kong. And then so he's like, why would you let your kid do this? There's no money in this. There's no future. But my mom was like, well, what do you suggest him to do? And my dad only wanted me to do piano. It's because he has a church. And so I was the pianist for his church. And so it's like, okay, you can be a pianist because you can play for my church, for very little money. But even then I can eventually I needed to make money. I couldn't, play for a very low-paying church, so I ended up getting other higher-paying church jobs down the road too. So that's kind of how I got into it, and I didn't start my acting career or my acting journey until high school, and that's also an interesting thing because I took my first acting class because I wanted to quit French, and I also wanted to get rid of my English teacher. because I had this English teacher, and I went to school at Gabrielino High School, so it's right here in San Gabriel. I was the first graduating class, so it was an interesting time because I was a senior for 4 years. I never had upperclassmen. I have never had that, the stereotypical mean girl, clueless type high school experience. Mine was like, everything's good. Nobody ever picked up on me. I never experienced bullying because there were only 300 of us and we were all freshmen when I entered high school, and we were senior. We basically moved up the rank that way.
I never considered what that would mean to be the first class there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
They weren't going to, move students who were already at San Gabriel High School to, Gabrielino High. So we literally started off, the first year was just a freshman class. And then the second year was us, we were sophomore, and then the new incoming were freshmen. So we created every club, like everything. So it was just one of those things where I went to school in Gabrielino, and I wanted, it was like my junior year, I wanted to quit French because the French teacher was really boring. I was literally the last man standing. All the other guys quit the class already. It was like French 4 or something. I think, I was in French 4 at that time. And there were only a few girls left, and all the guys just couldn't bear how boring it was. So they all quit. And I was like halfway through that semester, I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. And then I also wanted to get rid of my English teacher because she was overly aggressive. New teacher, gave a lot of homework assignment, and it was like homework after homework after homework. And then I heard my other friend like, "Come join my English class. All we do is just read. We don't have to do anything." I'm like, "Okay, that sounds good. Sign me up." But a counselor is not going to switch your English teacher because you didn't like your English teacher. So I came up with a scheme. I was like, I'm going to get rid of my French teacher, which is like fourth period, because the English class I wanted to get into was in fourth period. And then my English class I wanted to get rid of was third period. So I needed to find a class that fit third period. And my friend was like, join me. There's a new drama class at third period. I'm like, sign me up. Okay, I'm there. I'm like, I didn't care what it was. I was like, that sounds fun. I'm going to be a musician. My grades don't really even matter because I'm going to be a musician anyways, because you don't really need grades to get into the top tier music schools. It's all about your audition. So, and you don't need to take some fancy bunch of AP classes to get in. Like, none of that matters. Only your audition matters when it comes to the performing arts. Like, you could be getting a C, across the board and still get into USC and all, or Indiana or all the top tier music school, because it's purely based on your auditions. So that was how I got into acting, because I wanted to quit those 2 classes.
Wow. Are you a coffee drinker, Paul?
No, I actually don't.
You have high energy. Yeah, really high energy. I mean, that's hard to sustain or to get up to for me.
But can you go like this 16 hours a day?
I can, only because I've worked with a lot of kids. So, you kind of have to have this. Like, I would teach 6-7 hours in a row sometimes, and like yesterday, I literally taught 6.5 hours in a row.
Were you exhausted after?
Oh, yeah. I'm an introvert. Like, I like to just stay at home and be quiet and not talk to people. Like, that's what my go-to default is. But I know everyone looking at me like, you're not an introvert. I'm like, yeah, I'm totally an introvert. I don't want to be talking to people. It's
surprising how many people we discover are introverts doing this show, Yeah. Like, even our last guest, I think, described himself as an introvert.
Yeah. I think there's varying definitions of it too, though.
Yeah, it can mean different things. You're right.
Yeah. You mentioned that you came here at 8 or 9 from Hong Kong. What was the San Gabriel Valley like at that time for an 8 or 9-year-old just coming from Hong Kong?
Oh, it's so hilarious when I landed, because I came from Hong Kong with skyscrapers, right? Like the whole city's full of high rises and skyscraper. And then when we landed, because I was a kid, I didn't know anything. There was no internet to look up anything. And my vision of Hong Kong, of the US, was New York City, like high rise and everything. The plane landed, and I looked around. I was like, "Where are all the skyscrapers?" Yeah. I'm like, "Did I go back to China?" Like, that's literally the thought I thought in my head. Like, where is all the all the tall buildings here? Because you're an 8-year-old kid. That's your expectation. Especially coming from Hong Kong, you think modern city is that. And so, but we landed, and my dad took us to, because he was already here for 6 months, right? So he took us to a Chinese restaurant, and we ate there, And after the meal, my mom said, "This is horrible. This is awful. Like, ew. Like, this is so bad." And then so we didn't go back to that restaurant. And then we went to a bunch of different restaurants over the next year, not like all the, on a semi-regular basis, to eat at some of the other restaurants. And then a year later, we went back to that same restaurant and we discovered it was the best Chinese food here.
Oh no!
Yeah, that was 1989. But
was that in San Gabriel?
Yeah, it was in San Gabriel. It's right off of San Gabriel Boulevard. It's where that Indian restaurant is now. It used to be it's changed over time. But when we went there, it was called Sam Yun. I don't know the English name, but that's the Chinese name for it. And
wait, the Indian that's in the corner of that little shopping mall in the donut shop.
Yes.
Right up the street here.
Yeah, right up the street on San Gabriel. Yeah,
that is a bizarre. Strange restaurant, right?
Yeah, you think it's an Indian restaurant. I always thought it was an Indian restaurant, and then
it's a native Taiwanese themed restaurant. Yeah, I know. But the thing is, the restaurant we went to was before this one. Before it changed owner and became a theme. It was just a family restaurant, a Chinese Cantonese style sit down restaurant. And yeah, I mean, the food in the 80s and the early 90s was not great here, but it's evolved so much now. It's like, you come here, it's like, wow, world-class dining, like all the crazy good Asian, not just Chinese food, there's great Korean food, Vietnamese food, like there's just any kind of food you want to eat. You can find them here in San Gabriel Valley. It's like a food mecca now, but it was not like this in the 80s for sure. Yeah.
So, so that describes your food experience and the planes and stuff. And did you feel like you were integrated very quickly, easily into the culture here?
So, I mean, it was an interesting experience because I came here, I went to, I think it was 4th grade. So when I entered school was 4th grade at McKinley. So again, in San Gabriel. And after my first couple of days of class, I think my mom was asking me like, "So do you want to stay here? Do you want to go back to Hong Kong?" Because my mom really didn't want to stay here, but it's just kind of stuck here with not a lot of great job prospects. But she asked us, me and my brother, if we wanted to stay, and we're like, or if we wanted to go back to Hong Kong. And I don't remember this, but my mom says this is what happened: was that we told her, if you want to go back to Hong Kong, you can go yourself. And the reason why was because there was no homework. Like in Hong Kong, when we went to school, I would cry for a whole day before the first day of school every year because I know, oh my gosh, it's going to be so much homework. Because the school I went to was one of the best elementary school in Hong Kong, or they call it primary school there. And then we would go from 12 to 6, but I would be doing homework from 6 to midnight. Like it was
even as a first, second, or third grader.
Yeah. It was insane. And
a private school?
No, it was just a public school.
Really?
But it was like one of the best public schools in Hong Kong. And
best at what?
I don't know, academics. I don't really know, but it's ranked
torture. Best at
It is, but at that time, during that period, actually there were a lot of discussion about the health of children too in Hong Kong, because a lot of people complained about how the backpack weighed more than the kid. Yeah. In Hong Kong, it was crazy. But here it's we get a set of books at home and a set of books in the classroom. I'm like, oh, great. And then, when school is done, you're done. You go home. There's no homework, maybe a little bit of homework. There was some occasional projects, but there was no 6 hours of homework. So we're like, great, this is great. And also, the school was there were a lot of Asian kids in there. So I didn't feel completely out of place. Of course, there was a little bit of language barrier, but as a kid, and I grew up in Hong Kong, so we were exposed to English because it was, British rule at that time. So we were taught, we just didn't use it all the time. So I wasn't completely unfamiliar with English. So, and there were ESL classes here too. So I was in the I think I was in the ESL program for about half a year, in an actual ESL classroom, but I was technically still in it. I had no idea why. I remember this when I was a junior when I was a junior high, 8th grade. I was already in honors English, and then somehow, I had this weird, thought, and I just remember every year I would go and take this ESL test, and suddenly that morning I had that thought in me, and then I got called in to take that test that day. I was like, I'm in honors English. Why am I still taking this ESL test? I don't get this. Since then I didn't have to take it anymore, but it was just a weird experience. But other than that, people were friendly for the most part. It wasn't some crazy, horrible experience for me. And culturally, it wasn't that shocking. Kids, really, are very adaptable, especially the younger they are. And I've worked with so many kids, and I've seen so many like friends who have kids who came from, Asia at a young age, and parents always worry like, oh no, are they going to be able to speak English? Are they going to be able to, be able to do well at school? And I'm like, you shouldn't worry about that. You should worry about if your kid's going to remember Chinese in 10 years. Yeah. Like that's really the thing you should be worried about. Unless if they're like coming in 15, 16 years old, that's a little bit different. But if they're under 10, you don't have to worry about that at all. You just go and join the classes. And there's a huge Asian population, so you don't feel like you're the lone kid out in the yard, like the only Asian kid in a field of non-Asians,
So you finagled your way into this other English class or no?
No, I don't know. I just kind of like, you take classes and you get into these other classes, and they just put me in honors English.
No, I'm sorry. I'm returning to where you had schemed to.
In
high school. So
yes, I did, because that's how I got into my drama class. And then so because of that, I dropped French for drama, and so they had to switch my English class. I never told my counselor the reason why I did it, but.
Maybe she's still there and we'll listen to this.
Probably. But I mean, I've heard good things about her since I've left. But it was just new teacher. It just felt a little bit too much for me. I was like, why are we doing so much English homework? Like I want to do other things with my life, because I was in speech and debate, I was in band, orchestra, I was in all of those programs, and so I was so busy. I I don't have time to do a lot of homework, and my strength was not necessarily in like. I didn't feel my strength at that time was in English, but even though I'm like. I wrote a book now, but yeah, so it was, I've always thought of myself more in the scientific, like I was better with math and science as a kid, but when I told my science teacher I was going to go into music, she actually said, oh, that's going to be a loss for the scientific community. I'm like, oh, you're so nice.
So did you enjoy drama? Is that where that started? Yeah. Okay.
Once I got in, I loved it, because I did speech and debate since I was a freshman, and my friends were like, they had like interpretive events and also speech, debate event. And I started with all the debate event because I love debating people and arguing with people. I was that kid. And my friends were like, you can't act, so don't do those interpretive events. I'm like, okay. I didn't think twice about it. But then since I joined drama, my drama teacher's like, you're so good. And then she put me in everything. She she cast me as Allie Hackham in Oklahoma in a summer stock production that summer. And then I was like the lead of the fall all-school play. And it was the first all-school play the school had, because, the drama program started my junior year. And so it was a brand new program. And my senior year, I was the lead for both the fall play and the spring musical. So like
Which plays did your school do then?
Our fall play was Harvey. So it's about
with the rabbit.
Yes, it's about the invisible rabbit. So I played the guy Elwood P. Dowd, who has an invisible 6-foot tall rabbit as his best friend.
I think that was Fred McMurray, maybe in the movie.
I think so. I think it's a classic movie. So, but we did the original play version of it when I was in. That was my first full-length play that I've ever done, in my life.
Really?
Yeah, because I didn't do drama. It was like,
I'm curious, what was the home like? Because this is not for the people that I grew up with, right? Like that were of immigrants' families. Like they would like squash this right away, right? Like they're like, no, you're not going to do this. What are you doing? I mean, even for my friend Danny, who was on this show, to play basketball, recreational basketball, was a fight. Anything outside of the traditional academic. So how was that conversation with your family about what you were doing?
The fortunate thing was because my dad was a pastor. And so, he was a pastor of an immigrant church that didn't make any money. So, it's not ingrained in him. Money was not the most important thing in his worldview. So that was one of those fortunate things that I had, because my dad didn't actually believe necessarily you must be a doctor or lawyer, something, no offense. I would have considered being in law, because I love like laws. I love speech and debate and argumentative, I love doing debates and, being, either law or politics, like I've enjoyed all of that when I was in high school. But my parents weren't necessarily, had any specific things for me to do. And also because at my dad's church, I did a lot of, aside from playing the piano, I put together like a church youth band, and we did like, Thanksgiving and Christmas shows and things like that. So drama was a part of the church life too. So it wasn't like completely that's a way, like it wasn't something that was my parents were completely unfamiliar with and saw absolutely no use for, because they did that at church. So they figure doing these things won't hurt him. He can do all of this stuff at the church that my dad has. So I think that's kind of the vision for at least their thoughts. I don't think they planned on me ever becoming an actor. But I wasn't planning on becoming an actor. In my high school, like I decided around my sophomore year to become a pianist, and it was a classical pianist. It wasn't a pop pianist. And I remember it was my freshman year, because I remember this because I took this class called Intro to High School, which everyone had to do when I was in high school. And the teacher at one point gave us an assignment, and one of the assignment was to just write down what we wanted to do for our life and what our profession, what we envision our professions to be. And I wrote musician. And I remember she went up in front of the class and gave this, was talking about all the different things. And then when she got to musician, and I know she was talking about me, she didn't name me, but I know she was talking about me because I wrote musician. And I'm like looking at the whole class. I'm like, I don't see anyone else here who was even thinking about musician, because everyone was, giving all the typical, professions that you would as a high school class. And she was like, well, musician is fun and stuff, but it might not be a practical career and all of that stuff. She started giving this whole spiel out there, and I'm like sitting there going like, that is not, one, I don't think it was appropriate as a high school teacher to say that to anyone of their career aspiration, because one, you don't know anything about music. And two, I was thinking about a classical musician, and I know I'm going to be financially okay because I could at the very least teach, even if I had like career aspiration, I wanted to be like a world-class pianist. If I don't, there's a lot of work for teaching, music in everywhere. So it's not a non-valid occupation. I'm just sitting here going like, this is.
Yeah, you're right. That really was inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I tell my kids growing up and what I tell anybody who asks me for advice, you're not going to school, you're not going to college to learn to earn money. You're going to, educate yourself and make yourself better. I've always disliked that response that somebody thinks, well, you're not going to make money, you're not going to be able to support yourself if you study that in college.
Yeah, no, I am because now that I teach performing arts and then parents come to me and ask me, oh, does my child have what it takes, to become an actor and all that stuff. But it's like, that's not the right question to ask. It's not the right thing to determine what the child, I don't know what your child's future will be. I don't know when they will change. And the thing is, half the people that go to college don't work in the profession they studied in. A lot of people don't. I know a lot of people, like one of my friend, it was a French horn player, and then she became a museum curator. I mean, it's like, how do you get from this to that? And then another one was studying trumpet, and he was a trumpet performance major, and then now he's a musical theater writer. I mean, it's still in the music, but he didn't study music composition. He just had a passion for it. And for me, like I started as a pianist, and then I went into music composition for my master's degree, but I also did musical theater and theater minor. But I did those minors because I had time, and I was like, I didn't want to be a part-time student. I wanted to be a full-time student. So instead of doing a practical minor, like a business minor, I was like, I'm just going to have fun and do musical theater and theater minor. And I still didn't think I wanted to. I know. I'm like the worst Asian kid ever.
Well, I wouldn't say worse. I would just say very, you're definitely an outlier to the common Asian immigrant experience here. Definitely an outlier. You must know that, right? Like,
oh yeah,
okay.
yeah. I do know that I am very different than the typical Asian kid. But then I come to realize it ultimately doesn't make that much of a difference for most people what you study in college in terms of your career outlook. As long as you study something you're passionate in, you'll find work. You will find and make it through your life. My brother started off he started as a computer science person, and then he quit computer science and switched major to computer information system. And literally went to a different college. Like he went to UC Riverside and then quit that and went to PCC for a little bit and then ended up at Cal Poly. And then, he went in and did the normal computer information science and all that stuff for about 10 years, doing IT auditing for like large, big corps and all that stuff. And he did really well. But then, he started in college. He also had an interest in photography. So I remember, and we were poor. We didn't have money. My parents had no money. So everything we did, we just, me and my brother were just trying to finagle, any little bit of money. And he asked me if I wanted to chip in together with him and buy our first DSLR camera. And they were expensive in the early 2000s. They weren't like, it was I think it was like $1,000-something for like, two college kid with no money. It was like a lot of money. So, but I was like, sure, I'm going into the arts, so it doesn't hurt to learn a little bit about this. But he really loved it, so he started doing a lot of photography and all that stuff. And then I think one year he was just kind of, and his, he just, to save taxes and all that stuff, he opened up a company, which is to do videography. And he was just doing it on the side for fun while he was still working his full-time job. And now he quit, I think it was last year, a year before, he just quit his full-time job. And because his videography company took off, he's now the videographer. Like his company does videography for like the largest ballet competition in the world. Like he's flying around the world, just filming ballet competitions, and also all these dance performances and competitions and all of these other, just videography. And because that was his passion, like, he didn't set out to do any of this stuff. He just had a passion for it. He learned. And so I am a firm believer, if you want to do something, if you love it, if you have a passion for it, just go and do it, and you'll find your way and you'll find your niche and you'll be successful. And that's my same experience with me in my career in acting. Like, of course, every actor goes into acting wanting to be a big, famous actor. And I got lucky. I was in a big project, and it's called it's the God's Not Dead project, and I was like, I got a supporting role in that when it first came out in 2014. I auditioned for it in 2012, and nobody knew it was going to be a big project, but it was a film that was shot for like about $1 million or $2 million or something like that, and then it made $60 million in the box office because it just ran away, and it just happened.
What was that?
It's one of the biggest blockbuster. Well, I guess. It was a Christian film. So it was this Christian film company. They've made like over 100 films, and then they decided to make this one big film that, they wanted to just, kind of elevate their film projects, a little bit. But they weren't like, expecting it to run off with like 60 million. They just wanted to make some money back. And so they released this Christian film project, and they released a trailer the year before. It was coming out, I think it's March. It came out March of 2014, and so in 2013 they released the trailer on Facebook, and it turned into the most shared Facebook trailer of the year, or something like that. It was insane. They were like, "What happened?" Because it was gonna go straight to DVD, and when the trailer came out, it blew up. They were like, "Oh, let's get into a couple of theaters. It would be, it'd be nice," because they've never had a film in an actual theater before that. So they thought like, "Oh, it'd be nice to just get into a couple of theaters." But then when it just kind of snowballed into this giant thing, and by the time the premiere came, they were going to release it in like 700 something theaters.
Wow.
And then the thing is, they released it in 700 theaters the first week. And it was one of those rare films where the second week it increased. It got into like 1,300, and then at one point, like at third week or something, it got to like 1,800 theaters around. Like how did you get from that to that?
And what was your role?
I was one of the supporting. Yes, that's.
I'm like, oh shit! Now I remember.
You
Did
saw
you see
that?
it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and you saw him?
Yeah.
Wow, a celebrity.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
We'll get your autograph afterwards.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. You know that movie. Does it have 3 parts or just 2?
4.
4.
They made 4. Yeah. The 4th one. Well, I think they just made the 5th one. I'm not in the 5th one, but I'm in all the first 4.
Wow.
And so what is your role?
I played it's a foreign student who came to the U.S. and then he was going to college and he's in the class with the lead actor, who is, because the professor, he was played by, Hercules. Oh man, his name, I totally forgot his name. It's just I'm blanking out right now.
David White,
Not David White, the
bad guy.
No, he played Hercules in the classic 90s Hercules. What's his name?
His wife is also an actress, right?
I think so. I can't remember. Oh my gosh.
There's a race. Let's see who gets it first.
Oh, Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah, Kevin Sorbo, that's right.
Okay.
Kevin Sorbo, that's
So
correct.
Victoria got it first.
Yes, there we go. So Kevin Sorbo played the bad guy, and he was making his whole class declare that, to take his philosophy class, they have to declare God is dead. And then so the lead actor's like, I can't say that. So they have this whole debate, and I was in the class listening to this whole thing, and then I got affected. And then at the end, I was the first student in the classroom. Spoiler alert, but hopefully, not spoiling for anyone.
Remember, yeah.
So I was the first person to stand up and say God's not dead, because I had a change of heart, because I came from a foreign student from China where the parents are complete atheists and and was basically upset at the fact that I was even talking about all of this religious stuff. Like, what are you talking about? Go and study whatever you're supposed to study and make money. Like, that's kind of, the typical Asian parent expectation. So that's the role I played. I was a supporting character. And then his character evolved over the course of the franchise. And I won't go too much into all of that other stuff, but that, when it came out, it became a thing because they had this hashtag God's Not Dead social, and they really took social media, took advantage of social media and people just sharing that hashtag. Because I remember when the movie came out, my phone just exploded with all my friends who went and watched it, and they were like, hashtag God's Not Dead. I'm like, okay, you saw the movie. Like, that's how I know you're all watching the movie.
Yeah.
And they were just doing that to everyone. People were just sharing that and sharing that hashtag to everyone. And so the movie, that's how it kind of snowballed and grew from its initial release. So, yeah.
I'm going to go back and watch that now. I'm excited to see that again.
So you watched it at the time it came out?
Yeah. And I didn't know that there were 4 releases, but I don't know if you watched if you've seen the Chosen franchise, but they've exploded like unbelievable. And even Joe Rogan had said something like their YouTube views were like in the hundreds of millions and just incredible. But anyway, so back to you, Paul. We ask each guest to bring an item of significance with them. What did you bring with you today?
So I brought my children's book. This is called Nervous Nellie's First Recital. And I think I mentioned it last time I was here. This book I wrote because I have 2 nieces, and at the time I wrote it, they were 4 and 6 years old, and they were taking performing arts classes at my school, and they were doing dance and singing and music, and they get nervous, like really easily nervous. And so I was sitting in my office and I was thinking about all of that stuff. And suddenly it came, like this whole story came to me about a little girl, like my niece, who's very nervous. And then me, a teacher helping the little girl how to overcome the nervousness through all the things that I talk about, because the way I teach young students about nervousness is that it's okay to be nervous. It's perfectly fine. You should embrace your nervousness, because the only reason why you're nervous, it's because it matters to you. It's important. And that is why, if you're not nervous, then probably it's not that important to you. And that is why, you don't care about it, so you're not nervous. But because you care about it, so you're nervous. But the thing is, what you can't do is to just tell yourself to stop being nervous. Like, it just doesn't work that way. You can't tell yourself to don't shake your hand, or don't, if you're feeling your butterflies in your stomach, don't feel it. And try to, if your heart's racing, like, okay, stop. Like, that's never going to work. What you want to do is just acknowledge your nervousness. And so if your heart is pumping really fast, you want to acknowledge it and then feel it and embrace your heart pumping faster. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. Your heart is just moving a little bit faster because your adrenaline's moving, pumping up, and so that's why you're feeling the heart moving faster. So embrace that, enjoy that, because it means that you care about this thing that you're about to do. So let it, feel it more, try to mentally embrace it. And the more you embrace the nervousness, or if you're feeling the butterflies in your stomach, churning, churn your butterflies even more. Like I would tell them, churn even more. If your hands are shaking, shake it even more. Let it dance, have fun with it. Because then when you do that, even if it doesn't completely go away, you're enjoying the process. And by enjoying the process, it just feels better. And then eventually, at the very minimum, you won't feel as scared about all of these things that are happening. So I wrote this, book for my niece. And what I did was, when I wrote the story literally in 5 minutes, it was like I just sat down and just wrote the whole thing out. And then I had lunch, I think later the next day. And then so I had lunch with my nieces the next day. It was just happened to have lunch. And then I went and asked her, draw me a little girl. So she drew me a little girl, which is basically her. She just drew herself, and she wears this little heart shirt, and it was an actual heart shirt I gave them for Christmas the year before. And so and I took that photo, took that drawing to an artist. That's Jeannie Joan. She's the artist for this book, and she created the character. So it's an Asian American young girl learning how to embrace her nervousness, and so that she can go on her first recital and be able to sing and enjoy her singing. Because I think it's important for every student to understand how to be in front of a camera or on the stage, to understand how to overcome their nervousness. And that's a big part of my school, Pop Rock Academy. What I do there is to help students understand that and to learn that. So and it's fascinating to me because I hear all these parents coming to me saying, when I talk to them about, I have a performing arts school and we teach acting, dance, and music, and the parents' response to me would be, my kid's too shy for that. And I'm like, that's probably more reason for your kid to do this, because your kid is shy. So you need to make sure they overcome this and be able to be in front of people and talk and speak, because it's such a useful skill. I'm sure you all know this, and like you said earlier, with your nervousness, you're going on when you have to do a public speaking event, you would be scared for a whole day, which is absolutely understandable. And that means that engagement you're going to go to is very important to you, or at least the people there that you're trying to speak to are important, or something about that event is important to you, and that is why you feel that nervous energy. Because if it didn't, you wouldn't care, and just whatever, I'll just go and do it.
No, I should have had Nervous Nellie's first recital.
Well, here you go. You can have this one.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, I want to get into more about what your journey into becoming a business owner or opening up this school, but let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
At Wormuth Law, they believe that just because you speak a foreign language, come from a different culture, or simply don't know how to navigate the legal system, that should not prevent you from compensation from injury or receiving benefits. Their multicultural staff have been helping SGVers like you for over 38 years. Visit law888.com or call them at 626-784-7017 and tell them you heard about them on this podcast.
All right, we're back with Paul Kuo. Paul, before the break, you were sharing about the book and this journey to create this. Actually, many things. But we're going to move on to this segment of the show where we ask questions from these Like You cards. And again, we're not promoting them. We're not affiliated with them. We just really enjoy them. And they are from a guest who was previously on the show. So Like You cards. You ready, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Are you more afraid of failure or success? Or with whom do you practice vulnerability?
Wow, this is such a deep question. Wow, I was thinking it'd be a very nice, easy.
What's your favorite color?
I know. Like, why can't you ask me that? Oh, wow. So, if I'm more afraid of failure or success, and whom I practice vulnerability to?
Yeah, either one. You can choose zero if you can choose answer none if you want.
No. I think it's important, and I think as an actor. I mean, I'm an actor. We pretty much, every actor is so self-conscious and always worried about failures and not being accepted, that insecurity is in every single actor, because that's the one thing I come to realize and I've learned and I've discovered is that actors make the best anything else after they leave acting, because we failed so many times in acting. It's what we do. And so I'm not I'm not afraid of failure necessarily, but of course I think I'm afraid of not achieving what I would want to achieve and saying the things that I want to say, that I feel need to be said and need to be brought to light and to share with the world. That's really what ultimately where I'm landing on now. Like, if you asked me that question 10 years ago, I'd probably say, I'm afraid of failure. Like I'm not getting anywhere with my career. But you learn that as an actor, because as an actor, all you do is just face failures every day, like rejection, day after day after day after day. Like the enormity amount of rejections we get is just, we do that on a daily basis, because most people, when I talk to a friend who are applying to a job, right? So most people apply to a job, they go to they apply to maybe 10, 20, 30 different jobs, or maybe 50 jobs in their lifetime, not lifetime, like at any given time, and then they get a couple of interviews, 5, 10 interviews, and then they may, end up getting a job, something like that, around there. And then they have a job for a couple of years, or even for the rest of their life. Then they don't have to worry about that ever. But for me, it's like that happens every day. And then the thing is, we get rejected 50,000 times, like throughout the year, like how many auditions we have to submit ourselves to. And then when we do get the auditions, we go to like 100 of them, a year, and maybe we get like, 5, 10 callbacks. And then you might book one job for one day. Then you have to repeat that process over and over and over. So you just learn so much about failure is just a part of life. So yeah, I still feel insecure about, even when I opened up my business, Pop Rock, like 11 years ago. Well, was it 11? I think, yeah, 11 years ago. I wasn't so much afraid of failure as I was, because I know if it fails, I'll be doing something else. It'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah, I've often thought, how you read books about success, how to be a successful this or that. I would rather teach failure. I would rather give a speech to a class of high school graduating seniors and tell them, I hope you all go fail. I think it's much more important than being successful.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Failing it's an essential part of success.
Yeah. One of my teacher when I was in college said this to me and the whole acting class, was that you're not a real actor until you've been fired from a job. And then I was like, okay, because he said, in Hollywood, nobody knows what they're doing. Everyone's always trying to figure out what this is, and because you can be the biggest director on the planet with the biggest cast on the planet and still have a flop. It happens all the time. And so about 10 years or so ago, I booked a lead role in a video game. I was like, yes, I booked this lead role in a video game. And then went to a session, and then I got fired from it. It was like, oh, it must be me. But then I remember what my teacher said, like, you're not a real actor until you've been fired from a job. And I'm like, I'm a real actor now. Yes. I'm like, yay. And then, of course, I find out that project hired another person, and then they fired that person again, and that person too. And then they hired another person who's a big name star. And then the whole project got scrapped. And then the whole company got sold to another company. And then they brought the project back to life. And I was just sitting there like, okay, it wasn't me. It was just the project, And then when they finally released the project, it was a flop. So I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is.
And did you feel good about that?
Well, yes and no. Because my teacher also said, another thing that I take to heart. Like, my teacher at USC, his name's Joe Hacker, and he's like, when I studied with him, he's been to 7,000 auditions in his life at that point. So he's been to even more. And he wrote a book that came out about 5 years ago about auditioning for camera. It's a fantastic book called Acting for Camera, and he was actually one of the he said he was one of the final 4 people in the final screen test for Indiana Jones with Harrison Ford. He was sitting in that room with Harrison Ford auditioning for Indiana Jones, and he's sitting there going like, yeah, I'm never gonna get this, bro, because there's Indiana Jones and there's me. There's Harrison Ford and there's me. Like, you're not gonna beat Harrison Ford in getting a job. Like, it's not gonna happen. But what he said was, you don't want to wish a project bad, because if that project becomes successful, then more projects like that will come out and you'll get a chance to do things because you're already there. You're already so close to it. Then that means you're right for that role. It's just they went with somebody else for other reasons that are completely out of your control. And so, yeah, and he and what he ended up getting was a lot of national commercial campaigns and made a lot of money, because all these companies wanted Harrison Ford-like characters in their commercial, but they can't afford Harrison Ford, so they hire people like, my teacher, who is, can play the part without costing the same amount of money. Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of the philosophy. I try my best. Of course, part of you kind of like, oh, you feel like, yes, validated, but at the same time, it's like, no, I did wish that the project did well, because then it would mean more projects like that would have been created, and I could have been in those other projects as well. So, so I try not to wish other projects bad, because in the end, it's most of it is out of your control. It's not personal. Nobody really, there's no guarantee in any of it, and people are just trying to figure their way out and figure their, what they think it's best, and things don't always happen right, and you just keep going.
Well, we want to sort of move the show along because we're getting short on time, but I want to give you opportunity, Paul, to tell the listener a little bit about where your school is at, what you guys offer, the sort of services. I know you say dance, music, performing arts, but give them a little bit more insight into what you guys offer.
My school is Pop Rock Academy. We're located in Temple City. We were in Alhambra for about 10 years, but we went online during the pandemic and we structured everything and we moved into Temple City. So the main things that we do is performing arts classes. We primarily teach acting, dance, and music, and we also have some writing classes as well. Mostly for kids, but we do also offer classes for adults as well, and both for professionals and recreational students. So you don't have to have Hollywood aspirations to come to our school, but one of the most important things that our school really do work on is to help students, especially young students and young adult students who want to break into the industry, especially if you don't know how and you feel like, oh, I don't have any connections with anyone in the industry. Well, you have me. And I will teach you how to get there. We've helped a lot of students find agents. Like, we teach you the process. So what we don't do is we don't it's not a pay us money and then we'll find you an agent. It's not like that. It really is, we teach you how to do all of that stuff. I teach my students how to search agencies and research them and find agencies that would work for you, looking them up on IMDb and IMDb Pro mostly, and then submitting to them through whatever channel that the agency accepts submissions, and finding referrals and what the difference between an agent and a manager is, just teaching them all the fundamentals of how this industry works so that you know how to go into the industry and navigate your way through it, even beyond us. And then our classes would teach you, aside from the techniques of dancing, like we do hip hop dancing, on-camera acting, we do singing, dancing, piano, drums, guitar, music compositions. But aside from teaching you how to play an instrument and act, we also teach students how to audition. So we have a voiceover class that teaches students how to create their own auditions using real past auditions that we have, that other actors have gotten. And so we use those material to teach students, and also on camera. Like, if you wanted to audition for a TV show on Netflix versus on Disney, we teach you how to audition for the different kinds of shows, because it's different. A lot of students have like acting training in schools, or they went to either do drama training in their high school or elementary school, or even some of these elementary school or middle school that have some drama program, or if they went to college in acting. But the thing is, it's different specifically in learning how to audition on camera. There's a very technical skill you need to learn. You have to understand that there is a difference between auditioning for a Disney show versus auditioning for Netflix versus an HBO or a feature film, who the director is, who the producer is. Like understanding the nuances, you have to adjust your acting. And then also understanding how to act for that camera. Where do you look? How do you get the most, the highest emotional impact into that camera? Where do you look? How do you turn your face? How do you put yourself together to create that whole audition? And now, because most auditions since the pandemic, it's all done as what they call self-tape. So you tape it at home, or you can come to an acting studio and have a coach tape it with you, and then you send it off to them, and then hopefully they call you back. Because it used to be we go in and we drive all the way out to Hollywood like every day to an audition. Now it's all self-tape, and even callbacks are, if they're live, a lot of them are done on Zoom, so they're not even done in person. So you have to learn how to audition on Zoom, how to make sure you're lighted properly and that your camera is on you in the correct way that works effectively for the scene that you're doing. So there's a lot of technical things to teach when it comes to auditioning for camera, which a lot of new actors don't know. And so the school does that, and that's what my business is really about, is to help the students in this area, in this valley, especially minority students. Of course, in the San Gabriel Valley, there's a lot of Asian Americans here. So, and me, myself being an Asian American, that's one of the things that I really want to help students in this valley to learn, because there isn't a lot of, at least from what I know, there's very few schools in this valley that does this. So most parents have to drive an hour out to Hollywood, wait there for 2 hours or so for a class, and then drive an hour back. That's like 4 hours of time.
Yeah, I've never heard of a school or a class like this anywhere in this area, but it sounds like your what you offer is all encompassing around the arts and teaching them what they need to know and preparing them, and not just after that, like, okay, now or it doesn't sound like you're promising them anything other than just the knowledge of what it takes. So that's really wonderful that you're offering that. Yeah. Paul, we're going to move on to our final segment of the show, where we're going to learn a little bit more about you and the things that you like, in addition to all of that interest in the San Gabriel Valley.
So, Paul, I know you were on the show before. We had previously discussed some of your favorites, but let's get a new set of your 3 favorite, events, places that you've visited, or places to go in the valley here.
Sure, absolutely. I can't even remember the last one. What did I say here last time? I think I'm sure most of the things that everyone talk about, it's very similar stuff. But I love all the missions and the Huntington libraries. Like, I'm a member over there. But one of the places I really do enjoy is the Monrovia Old Town area. Like, I feel like that's one of those underrated, nobody really think about, but when you go there, it's so quaint, and there's so many cute little shops in there, and I miss these fun, quaint little shops where you can just explore all sorts of interesting items, because we're so used to Amazon. I buy 90%. I have to say, I'm one of those. I buy 90% of my stuff on Amazon because it's just easy. But it's just so nice to be able to go into a mom and pop shop and just explore little fun things. And I love finding, like, the Huntington gift shop is another one of those. Like, there's, I can't remember the name, but there is one in Old Town Monrovia. There's a little shop in there that I just love, and I just can't remember the name of that shop. But there's just so many of them. There's a few of these little shops in that little strip, and I love the quaintness of that area, just feeling the old town nature of it.
And that's Myrtle Avenue, right? North of the 210 Myrtle, and I think it starts maybe like a half mile north of the freeway.
Yeah. It's about half a mile up north. If you just go straight up, you won't miss it, because the whole area is just so beautiful. Because it's like that one, and also Sierra Madre has that little strip in that corner, and there's some fun old school stores there too. I just love old school stores. Like, those are. it kind of transport me in a way back to like the thinking, oh, this is what America was in maybe like the 50s, 60s, kind of having that feeling. And I'm like, I feel like I'm in a time machine, in a different era. But at the same time, I am fortunate to enjoy the luxury of this era, without all the drawback of racism and all the negatives of that of the 50s and 60s. So I love those little quaint shops and fun places.
Monrovia Old Town has been named before several times as a favorite place too. Yeah. So what else would you say?
So I mentioned, I think I talked about restaurants. I love the restaurant scenes in the San Gabriel Valley. And so this is one of my personal favorite, but, and it's a weird favorite, and I'm pretty sure nobody's ever mentioned it. There's this one family restaurant that I go to all the time. It's called U2 Cafe, spelled like the band U and 2. And it's on Valley Boulevard, right by New Avenue, like about a block from New Avenue. And it's this own little shop, and it's a Hong Kong style cafe because I'm a Hong Kong,
Wait, does this have only like 4 parking spaces in front?
No. It has like its own parking lot.
Is it the old JJ Cafe?
No. It's next to Cane's on Valley, the new Cane's.
Okay, I'm not familiar. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So it's an old institution. It's been there forever. And my family goes there all the time. It's one of those restaurants where it kind of reminds me a little bit of how we, as a family, when we were in Hong Kong, we would just go and eat our typical normal. There's nothing fancy. Like, don't go there expecting 5 Michelin star cuisine. Like, you ain't getting that. It's just good, good old regular Hong Kong style food.
What's your favorite dish there?
Oh, I just order pretty much any of the lunch. I mean, we just rotate through everything, like the pork chop with the chicken. Oh, the chicken chop is really good. I really like the chicken chop. If you get the chicken steak with the black pepper sauce, the mushroom sauce is really good too, and the onion sauce is really good. Like, that's one of my family go-to cafe, and a few of my friends actually have that too. Like, they know us so well. When my niece was like 2 years old or 3 years old, that's the only restaurant she knew. And because we go there so often, like so many times when we go, and whenever
so it's been here for a while.
Yeah, it's been here forever. Yeah.
Ah.
And this current owner's owned it for a while now. Yeah, there you go. And so my niece would remember that restaurant, like, would say, like, "Oh, we going to U2 Cafe?" And like, this is when she was like 2 or 3 years old, when she just barely learned how to talk. And like, U2 is the only place she knows. She doesn't know any other restaurant because we go there all the time. It's just one of those things where the waitress and the wait staff knows us, and that old, I guess, if you think of the old diner experience where you go in there, the wait staff knows you, and so because they know me and I know them, and I go in there, they know my drink order is lemon iced tea, no sugar. Like, they know that already. So it's like,
wow, we can almost count that as 2 and 3. But anyway, let's get a third one.
No, I mean, yeah, it's perfectly fine. So aside from all the restaurants, I mean, I think Huntington Library is, I mentioned the gift shop. That is ultimately like my absolute favorite. I love the Arboretum too, but I think for me, Huntington Library, it was because my husband and I, during the pandemic, like, we had a membership, so that was our one place that we went to almost every other week. We would go there, especially in the beginning of the pandemic when we couldn't go anywhere indoors. Like, that kind of almost was a therapeutic place for us. And I think it's just such a gorgeous, beautiful place. It's so well maintained, and I love the museum and everything that they do over there. And I have friends who perform there too, and I think it's a fantastic, especially being here in the San Gabriel Valley. We don't think of San Gabriel Valley as a cultural place. We just think this is where we get food. But no, there's this wonderful garden with a lot of culture in there, and I think it's so important for us to support these cultural institutions here in the Valley, and Huntington is one of my favorite.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's one of the favorites of the guests here. Absolutely. One of the things that we considered to be iconic of the San Gabriel Valley, the Mission being one, the mountains, and then the gardens or Huntington Library. So, Paul, Thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing your story with us and our listeners. Before you go, please let the listener know where they can reach you or the address of your business.
Yes, the business is Pop Rock Academy. It's 9657 Las Tunas Drive, but you can also find us poprockacademy.com, and you can follow us on Instagram. You can also follow me on Instagram at the school is at Pop Rock Academy, and for me it's at Paul Quo, and Quo is spelled KWO.
Wonderful. Well, Paul, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Well, there you go, listeners. Thank you for tuning in to another episode here. If you like this episode, if you like what we do, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can find our full back catalog of episodes at sgvmasterkey.com. Don't forget, you can always drop us an email, info@sgvmasterkey.com. And until next week, we will see you soon.
You've been listening to the SGV Master Key Podcast. Our passion is the small businesses and the people that make up the San Gabriel Valley, and it's our honor to have them on the show. We hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure to like, rate, and review. The show is produced by Russell Mano, edited by Victoria Allers of Kind Monster Productions. Thanks for listening, and see you next time on the SGV Master Key Podcast.
Master, no, kind of master.